If you wondered why a girl suddenly dropkicks her brother, or why the main character is milking cows, or why harmonica music has no business hitting this hard in a JRPG, or why Trails fans insist that you must start with this game, and if any of that made you pause, laugh, or sparked your curiosity, then Trails in the Sky First Chapter is absolutely for you. Because this 2025 remake doesn't just update a 20-year-old game, it actually does justice to the classic that fans have loved for decades. Now, if you've been in the JRPG scene for a while, you've probably heard about the Trails series, also known as The Legend of Heroes, Trails, or its Japanese name, Kiseki. Maybe you have JRPG friends who won't stop raving about it. Maybe you've seen it pop up in Reddit recommendations or Twitter threads. Or maybe you scrolled past the game on Steam and noticed a staggering, overwhelmingly positive rating sitting at an incredible 96% at the time of this video. Anyone who uses Steam knows just how hard it is for a game to get that score. So if that score caught your eye, you're not alone. Because for almost 2 decades, fans have sworn by the Trails saga, begging newcomers to jump in, despite the fact that it spans 13 massive games, each running anywhere from 60 to 100 hours. It's no wonder people call it the MCU of JRPGs. Originally released as Trails in the Sky FC back in 2004 in Japan and in 2011 in the West on the PlayStation Portable, this 2025 remake rebrands the title as Trails in the Sky First Chapter, and it finally gives newcomers a clean entry point into the series, whether you heard about Trails for years or never touched it before. And because this remake will be played by 2 very different audiences, total newcomers and hardcore veterans, we're gonna break down this game from both perspectives. So first, let's start with the newcomers. To understand why Trails hooked fans for decades, you first need to meet one of the series' most beloved protagonists, Estelle Bright. So let's rewind to the opening of Trails in the Sky First Chapter. The game opens with a flashback. A father named Cassius Bright brings home a young boy he found unconscious. When he introduces him to his daughter, Estelle, he announces that his family will be adopting the boy. Joshua wakes up confused and panicking, unsure where he even is, and immediately asks Cassius why he wasn't just left to die. Estelle, who's completely thrown off by his tone and already annoyed by his attitude, dropkicks him on the spot. When Joshua complains that she's only making his injuries worse, Estelle smacks his face with both hands.
Are you sure about that?
Never mind.
All of this happens before the boy even tells her, or Cassius, that his name is Joshua. This interaction sets the tone for the relationship going forward. Fast forward 5 years later, Estelle and her now adopted brother Joshua are setting out to become full-fledged bracers, who are members of a guild dedicated to protecting civilians, solving local problems, and dealing with monsters when needed. So naturally, the game follows these 2 leads, Estelle and Joshua Bright. Estelle is honestly one of the most refreshing JRPG protagonists out there. She's goofy, chaotic, and absolutely full of heart. Joshua, on the other hand, is her complete opposite. He's calm, quiet, thoughtful, and constantly cleaning up after Estelle's disasters. Their dynamic is basically Estelle as the hyper-gremlin protagonist, while Joshua is the stoic straight man. And it works beautifully. Even in the first hour, their chemistry is one of the strongest parts of the game. And in typical JRPG fashion, their early missions are simple, cozy slice-of-life tasks, running errands like a DoorDash person around town, searching for lost pocket change, rescuing random cats, until those slice-of-life errands are pushed aside for monster extermination across highways, open fields, and deep dungeons. And before you realize it, Estelle, Joshua, and company are dragged from cozy errands straight into nation-altering chaos. The game takes place in the peaceful kingdom of Liberl, a small nation surrounded by 2 massive superpowers, Erebonia to the north and Calvard to the east. These names might not mean much now, but trust me, they become very important in later games. And just as a quick note for longtime fans, the remake pronounces Liberl as Liberal. Now, this is a big change from how it's said in later games, since many OG players, myself included, have always pronounced it Liberl, ending with a sound that rhymes with Earl, which is closer to the Japanese pronunciation. So hearing this new liberal pronunciation definitely caught fans off guard. In fact, it kicked off a huge debate within the Trails community, especially among veteran players who felt the change was unnecessary or sounded clunky compared to the original. With that all said, for the rest of the video, I'll be using the Liberl pronunciation. Anyway, back to the game. Liberl is set about 50 years after an industrial revolution, where airships, orbital tech, and phones have replaced an older medieval way of life. This is also one of these JRPGs where talking to NPCs is a big part of the game. You'll see just how in-depth this game gets into when it comes to towns, the NPCs, the characters, and even the villains. Of course, since this is a JRPG, there's plenty of fighting. Trails in the Sky uses a hybrid combat system. You can run around and attack enemies directly, or switch into a more traditional turn-based mode where your skills hit harder and you can plan around enemy abilities. Most players use turn-based mode for tougher encounters and bosses, while action mode is great for rolling over enemies you're over-leveled on. Overall, the pacing is cozy, warm, and very character-driven, which makes this game great for newcomers. You'll get plenty of time to learn the world, get attached to the cast, and get settled into the series' signature storytelling, all without being overwhelmed. But this remake wasn't just made for newcomers. It also brings a lot of changes, both big and small, that longtime Trails fans will definitely notice. Now, if you're a long-term Trails fan who played the original back in 2004 or sometime in the last 20 years, this remake is gonna feel both familiar and surprisingly new. And the good news is, the story is completely intact. So let's first talk about what else changed from the OG game to the remake, with the biggest change in the series being the graphics have been completely redone in 3D. And while some fans prefer the pixel art charm of the original, the remake's new look is actually a great fit for players coming in from Cold Steel or Daybreak. Transitions between towns and fields are now instant, giving the world a smoother, more connected feel. One of the biggest and most notable upgrades is the addition of full English voice acting. Estelle, Joshua, Cassius, and everyone else in the main cast, as well as most side characters, now have voice lines. This adds an entirely new emotional layer to scenes fans already know by heart. If you're someone who's played the OG game with the Japanese voice mod and adores the Japanese voice acting, don't worry, the English cast is also strong. And in my opinion, Gung Ho, who's the localizers of this game, really nailed the personalities of Estelle and Joshua. Their banter feels just as lively and authentic as the original game. As for localization differences, the remake sticks much closer to the Japanese script, which takes some liberties here and there. This is similar to NIS America's approach, the company that localized the last several games in the series before Gung Ho took over and did a solid job overall. The characters' personalities and tone still feel true to the original, but there are a few changes that veteran fans will definitely notice, such as Amelis Tower now being renamed as Jade Tower, which confused a lot of older fans, or the iconic acerbic tomato is now called bitter tomato. And as mentioned earlier, the pronunciation of Liberl has changed to Liberal. None of these are deal breakers, but they will stand out to anyone who's played the original dozens of times. As for another classic in the original, one thing that's definitely missing is the empty chest messages. As old school fans know, the first several games in the Trail series had these funny messages when players double-checked the now empty treasure chests after looting them the first time. These messages were charming, unique, and sometimes even hilarious. And yeah, they're not here anymore. It's a small loss, but one that veteran fans will immediately notice. Falcom just didn't update the visuals, they rebuilt the entire combat system. Gone is the old grid battle-based layout from the original Trails trilogy. In its place is a more fluid combat system inspired by Trails Through Daybreak, with cleaner movement, smoother animations, and faster pacing. This still feels like the original Trails, just polished and in line with the more recent Trails games. There are also new quality of life combat features, such as breaking enemies on the field to start battles with an advantage, user interface, faster skill animations, and better balance throughout the game. For players that enjoyed a challenge, Nightmare Mode in this remake actually feels fair. And while the early game was quite difficult and definitely pushed me, it never felt cheap or impossible. If anything, it forced me to adjust my strategy, think about positioning, and sometimes level up a bit before taking on tougher fights. Despite the new systems, the new voices, the new localization choices, and a few quirks, this remake absolutely captures the heart of what made this game special in the first place. And for longtime fans, the soundtrack is exactly how you remember it, full of bangers. From the opening theme to the town music in Rouen,
I feel like I could watch the river flow for hours.
Sounds good to me.
and much later in the journey, this track still hits just as hard.
All right, let's do this.
We'll end this quickly.
We won't lose, even if it's against bracers.
Remakes have been trending hard lately. Atlus brought back Persona 3 Reload, Persona 4 Revival is on the way, and Capcom has been remaking Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 with huge success. So it makes perfect sense that Falcom, the creators of the Trail series, decided that it was time to remake one of their own classics. For years, Falcom has wanted Trails to stand alongside giants like Final Fantasy, Persona, and the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series in the West. The storytelling has always been top tier. The world building is often considered some of the best in the entire JRPG genre. But despite all that, the series struggled to break through internationally. Because let's be honest, asking today's fans to start with a pixel-based early 2000s PC game is a tough sell, even if the writing is god tier. Until now, because this remake isn't just about modernizing an old game for OG fans, it's Falcom making a clear play to bring new JRPG fans around the world into the Trails series. With the overwhelmingly positive reception to the first chapter remake so far, Falcom is clearly planning ahead. They already confirmed that Trails in the Sky SC, the legendary second chapter, is already in development. This signals one thing: Falcom is all in into rebuilding the entire Sky arc for a new era of overseas fans. This remake finally opens the door to the entire Trails universe. Trails in the Sky ends on one of the most infamous cliffhangers in JRPG history. Because that cliffhanger is so good, it practically forces players to continue into SC, whether that means waiting for the remake or jumping into the old school version right away. With so many huge JRPGs released every year, with massive budgets, cinematic cutscenes, and flashy combat systems, why does a remake of a 20-year-old plus game matter so much today? The answer is simple. Trails in the Sky does things that almost no current JRPG does anymore. It rewards you with an epic saga if you commit the time to it. And trust me, you can easily sink 60 to 80 hours into this remake alone, and upwards of 900 to 1200 hours if you continue through the rest of the series, with the most recent, Trails Beyond the Horizon, being released around the time of this video. The series is a huge time commitment for sure, but if you invest that time into the Legend of Heroes, aka the Trail series, you're getting one of the best long-form JRPG stories ever told. For years, Trails writing carried the series even when the presentation couldn't, but Trails Through Daybreak, and now this remake, finally brings the series up to current JRPG standards. Falcom's long-term strategy to put the most important focus on world building, characters, and lore showed just how promising the series' future now looks. These OG fans that have been telling others to play games for years are now more than happy to share one of their favorite JRPG series with other fans and friends that previously played it safe with the more mainstream popular franchises. With that, a whole new generation gets to experience the beginning of an epic series. Because in the end, this remake isn't just a nostalgic trip, it's the beginning of Trails' next era, an era that pushes the series one step closer to JRPG mainstream.